Okay.
We can hear you well.
All right. I hope that in this time that everybody will hear me. Okay, mute your mics, and when you want to talk, you can just open them. ואלה המשפטים אשר תשים לבם, פרשת משפטים. So the Torah is telling us those are the laws you have to put in front of Am Yisrael. And as we said, it's very interesting to look and see that all the laws that we see in our parsha are not exactly religious laws. And we would think that the normal thing is if the Torah wants to tell us the laws of Am Yisrael, they will tell us that laws that are connected to religious stuff that is unique to Am Yisrael, like Brit Milah, Shabbat, Kashrut, and all those other things. But those are really normal laws that every society needs them. And most of the societies in this world are using those laws. So what is so important about those laws? And nevertheless, the Torah is specific telling us, those are the laws you put in front of them. And Rashi explains that you're not allowed to go according to the Goyim laws, even if they look the same from the outside, because our laws are special laws, and you don't use normal courts. You also only go to Beis Din that is going according to the Torah, which is very interesting. Why? Well, what is the difference between our laws to the other nation? So first of all, to speak, as we said before, that this was exactly the discussion between Avraham Avinu and Avimelech when God revealed himself to him through an angel or whatever and told him, give back the wife of the guy, of Avraham Avinu. It's his wife. So he comes, Avimelech says, why did you do this to me? Why did you tell me that Sarah is your sister and not your wife? You made me almost, I did a sin. I didn't want. Why did you do this? So Avraham Avinu is telling him this unbelievable sentence. There is only one thing missing with you, no fear of God. And if there is no fear of God, you're going to kill me for my wife. And this is exactly the interesting thing. He said, what Abraham is saying, you've got everything. You've got beautiful laws and behavior and manners, but there is one thing missing. And when this is missing, the minute that will something hurt you personally, all those laws are going to be nothing. If you want something, if you desire something. And that's exactly, unfortunately, what happens with the Nazis. The Nazis, they were the most educated, sophisticated, mannered society in the whole world. They were well known with the manners and everything. And suddenly, they became murderers, animals, beasts, in the worst way you cannot even describe the way they behave. Kill people because they are Jews. And this is very important to understand. That's exactly what Torah is telling us. You have to understand our laws are special laws. Then we also want to touch this interesting point. Why are those special laws being told to us and not other laws? So Oral Chaim HaKadosh says, first thing we have to understand. When we talk about the laws of the Torah, there are, Baruch Hashem, many. And yes, we cannot know all the details of all the mitzvahs. That's why we have a rabbi to ask him. We have the Gdoilim to ask them, what should we do? And if we have questions, we approach them. But it's impossible that on every detail you go to a rabbi. If you wake up in the morning, you cannot go to the rabbi asking, what should I do now? Should I wash my hand? Should I say Modeh? Those are things you have to know. And exactly is also the manners of behavior. You're not allowed to steal. You're not allowed to bribe. All those things are things that you have to know. Not go and ask on every small details the Rebbe. So Oral Chaim HaKadosh says, those are the laws that we have to learn. All the other laws, no problem. If you can, learn them. If not, no problem. Go. If you have a problem, ask the Rebbe. No problem. Then also, Oral Chaim HaKadosh explains that or is what is the Rab Leventhal, I think. Rab Leventhal, I think, says it. That those are the laws that you put in front of them. It says Rashi Keshulchan Aruch, like let's say ready-made meal with that you have the only thing that you have to do. You have the plate, you have the meal ready, you have even the knife and fork. The only thing you have to do is to put your knife and fork and eat. In other words, you don't bring him vegetables and tell him, make a salad. You're bringing the salad ready to eat. Why? What's the problem if you give him the vegetable and he will make the salad by himself? It's not a big problem. He says, no. Those special laws, they have to understand. It's not enough you're going to tell them once and twice and three that they will, let's say, know them by heart. That's not the idea. They have to understand why and how on those particular mitzvahs. So those mitzvahs are special mitzvahs that we have to learn and understand them and do them properly. Then also another thing says I think the Rav Nebenzahl says when Moshe Rabbeinu was up there in heaven, 40 days and 40 nights, getting the Torah from who? From the Kodesh Baruch Hu himself. Now Moshe Rabbeinu is this high-level guy. Moshe Rabbeinu is a prophet at the highest level there is. Now, if God talked with him, they were talking about a very high level. So now when he goes down, he has to explain to us simple people about the laws of the Torah. So Kodesh Baruch Hu tells him, you have to understand, when you go down, you have to talk with them with their language. Don't be too sophisticated. Say it simply, that everybody will understand. And we all know the result when you come to somebody and he talks highly and you don't understand, even if he's a very knowledgeable person, and it could be well be, but you don't understand what he wants from you. So he cannot pass the message. And in order to pass the message, as we talked last week, you have to talk the way that everybody understands you. So, and those laws, we have to understand that also from the logical point, we see a lot of differences between our laws and the laws of the Goyim. For example, we're talking about somebody who killed somebody. In this case, a murderer. In order to bring to court a murderer and that he will be convicted, you need to do so many things that it's almost impossible to do. Like in the normal world, it's very easy. You have a witness or you have one witness. In the Torah, you need two witnesses. You have to warn him, etc., etc., etc. In other words, almost impossible. Also, from the other side, if you insult somebody, the Torah says, "Shofech damin," you spill his blood. You are the devil of a murderer. We all know that with the Goyim, and unfortunately also here, when we open the papers and hear to the radio and the television, we hear people are talking about other people in such a bad way. Torah doesn't allow it. So in other words, only from a very simple look on what's the difference between us and others makes it very clear. We all know sometimes in the world, somebody was convicted and he's sitting in jail for 20 years. And then suddenly they found out he was not the guy. He's innocent. Sometimes, unfortunately, in places where there is a death penalty, he's dead. But the Torah doesn't work like that. From this point of view, we have to understand that our laws are special laws. And here we have to understand another interesting point. In order to know if we're right or wrong, there's a very interesting way of knowing it. And this is when we look at our Parsha, we see something very interesting. We see that the Torah is talking about the Chagim, and it's talking about the time when you take your, 1 minute, let me find it. Oh, this is not our Parsha. Shalosh regalim tachog li b'shana. Those are the three yontif that we all know: Pesach, Sukkot, and Shavuot. And look what is written here: Chag HaMatzot is Chag Pesach. Lemoed Chodesh Aviv, in the springtime. What do you do in the springtime? There's Chag HaKatzir, when you take your harvest from the field. Bikurei, but it's written Bikurei Ma'asecha. Not the harvest, it's written the things that are going to come out from your deeds. And then also, it's written Chag HaAsif, Betzet HaShana, when the year is ended, when you take your things, Be'ospecha, when you gather your deeds. Be'ospecha, what? Et Ma'asecha. not the fruits, not the thing. And then what is written? ראשית ביקורי אדמתך תביא בית השם אלוהים. Then you bring all those things that were, let's say, the result of what you did to the house of God. So normally speaking, we're talking here about somebody who had a fruit tree, or what other things, and now he brings it, the first fruit he brings to God. But we all know that it's much more in it. And the interesting thing is that we say it every day in Vayayim Shamua. If we listen to God, God will give rain. If you don't listen to God, there will be no rain. In other words, it's all connected. It's like God is telling us, if you want to know if your behavior was good or not, look at the results of your normal things in the field. If it's a good year and you have good harvest, you have good fruits, meaning you did good. Also spiritually, because the spiritual world is connected to the physical world. In all years, let's say in all times, it was very connected. Unfortunately, today we are so not at that level that we don't see it so much. But it's still, nature is talking to us and showing us if we're on the right way or on the wrong way. Unfortunately, this year we're still having a very, very hard lesson, the coronavirus. And if somebody thinks for a minute that the cure for the corona is going to cure us and cure the world, is mistaken. The only thing that is going to cure us is to change our behavior, to understand and realize what it's all about. In other words, the Torah is telling us that you have to know what is the right way and what is the wrong way. Even if things look similar, as we said, and I want to tell you something. You know, for example, bribe. The Torah is telling us something very interesting about bribe. The Torah is telling us, let me see if I find it, a minute. A minute. One minute. The shochad lo tikach, you should not take bribe, because what? Because the bribe, השוחד יעבר פיקחים ויסלף דברי צדיקים. He's going to blind the smart guys and going to, let's say, spoil the words of the tzaddikim. And the question is, really, the Torah has to tell the tzaddikim not to take bribe? What, do we think that tzaddikim will take bribe? And we have to understand what's going on here. So the real truth is that the Torah is really hinting the tzaddikim, and each one of us, that if you think that only taking bribe, like take money for to change your mind, is bribe, that's not the case. Sometimes in life, especially with tzaddikim, if somebody does something good to them, they feel the obligation to give back. And it can get to a level that even if it's something that belongs to you. There is a story in the Gemara about this Rebbe that had some guy that was working in his fields, and he was giving a risk, that called in Hebrew. I don't know how you call it in English. Like he works the field, and from what he's getting out of it is giving a certain percentage to the owner, which was this Rebbe. And one day he comes, instead of coming on Thursday, he comes on Tuesday and tells him, here is your share. Says, why did you come on Tuesday to give me the share? You can come on Thursday, it's enough. Says, because I've got a court case now. So he says, you have a court case. So first of all, I cannot judge in your case. I have to find other people that are going to judge your case. And it was very interesting because what's the problem? It's yours. It's your fruits. It's your thing. It belongs to you. It didn't give you anything like bribe. It's yours. But he was very careful. Then look what happened. The Gemara is telling us that when he was in court, this Rebbe was going outside walking backwards and forwards and thinking to himself, what should his guy say to the judge in order to get a good judgment, in order to get, let's say, no, how do you say, clear of the case. And they thought, well, look at this. I didn't take the fruits from him. I'm not in court, and the fruits are mine. That's not a bribe. And look how I think. And this is exactly the point. Because what does it mean that clever people will lose their normal judgment? It will blind them. I must tell you a personal story. I'm writing about it for this Shabbos. A few months ago, a guy phoned us. He bought a chair from us, and there is a problem with the mechanism. We have to change the mechanism. So I phoned the firm in Germany, for example, and they told me to go, no problem, go to send me the mechanism. Oh, Hashem, we got the mechanism, let's say around a month ago. And I come to the warehouse, and the guy there says, no, it's impossible. I cannot unscrew the screws that connect the steel part that connects the mechanism to the back. And the mechanism on the seat, then you have to connect the mechanism and the connection from between the mechanism to the back. And we're trying, the screws don't move. They don't move. Impossible to move them. And we tried this and tried that. But I told him, you know what, take it to a hardware store and somebody, and maybe with the machinery they will open it. And it was going on for a whole month. We couldn't open this. It got to the point that the guy just cut the heads of the screws. And I told him, you stupid, what did you do? Now it's impossible to take the screws out because you don't even have something to catch the screw with. Didn't know what to do. I took a drill and drilled into the screws in order to clear the hole so we can put new screws in. And believe me, I broke, I think 5 or 6 drills in order to do this hole. And I couldn't do it right. I had to find the next morning a bigger drill in order to drill a little more, in order to have the ability to put the screws in to connect this part. In the morning, I get a WhatsApp. You wouldn't believe it. He says, you know what? I just look at the mechanism, and this part that we are trying so hard to take the screws out is already on it ready. The only thing we have to do is put the mechanism on the seat and take the back and put it in, and that's it. In other words, we were working so hard, cost us money and time, and the guy threatened us, I'm going to sue you. You didn't give me back the chair. And it was a problem that was being solved with the right look in 2 minutes, showing us that if you are bribed by a certain idea, it can lead you to so many problems. If you clear your head and you don't take bribe, and you, like in the first time when my worker told me I cannot unscrew the screws, I had to take and look at the mechanism, how it is connected. And then there wouldn't be any problem. But because I already was bribed ideally by the idea of my worker, I tried to go in the wrong way. I didn't see the right way. And this is a big lesson for life. In life, a lot of times, we look at things, but because we don't look the right way, and somebody tells us something, and we believe him, another father, and we go in the wrong way. In other words, Torah is telling us our laws are not others' laws. And even if you see things and you think you know it, look in the Torah. Look what the Torah is telling you, and you will find out that that's not the right way and going the right way. You all know this, I talked about it a few years ago. You all know this, how do you say this, ma'adan halav, this chocolate thing that you buy in supermarket. It's called YOLO. You know YOLO? You know what I'm talking about. This is this chocolate flavor thing with real chocolate in it. And do you know what are the initials of YOLO? U, Y, O, only, L, live, O, once. You only live once. You know how the advertising it in the beginning? Not even in Hebrew. It's so tasty, it tastes like a sin. This a way that you advertise something? What does it mean? That for the world, doing a mitzvah, going in the right way, is hardship. It's suffering. If you want to enjoy life, sin. It's so good, it tastes like a sin. But the Torah is telling us, Ta'amu ur'u ki tov Hashem. Taste the taste of the Torah and see how good it is. But the word says, Coca-Cola, the taste of life. Coca-Cola, Ta'am ha'chaim. But we all know that the Torah is Ta'am ha'chaim. But when you're surrounded with things and they brainwash you, you have to be very careful. So the Torah tells us, ואלה המשפטים אשר תשים לפניהם. לפניהם. Those are our laws, and you have to look at those laws. Even if they look the same as the Goyim, you have to look at them in the eyes of the Torah. Because otherwise, you are really being bribed by what's happening around you. And the Torah tells us that even the tzaddikim, and not nevertheless, the tzaddikim, they can be, let's say, hurt more than others. Because they have this way of doing the good in the eyes of God. And if they go in the wrong way, they're trying to do the good in a bad way. And it's going to drag them, like me with the mechanism. Not doing the right, normal thing, to look at the mechanism that I have to connect, that I got from the factory, and then look at the broken chair, the broken mechanism. But I looked at the broken mechanism, and then I worked my way till Baruch Hashem, the worker had come to a sense to look eventually at the new mechanism and see that all we did was wrong. So we don't want to go to this point. We want to go in the right way. And the right way, by the way, is not suffering. Our joy is not from sinning. Our joy is from going in the way of the Torah. That's the real joy that fills us up, like we are meeting every week and learning on Parshat Shavua. That's the joy of life, not Coca-Cola and not YOLO. And to say you only live once is a stupid sentence, because we live forever. Our neshama goes up there and lives forever. Here in this world, we are limited. It's like another story that I told you before. When I go to exhibitions, if it's in China or Germany, whatever, you see sometimes people are investing so much in the show. Like you see those puts there. Unbelievable. Sometimes it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. The big firm put. And now it's only for 1 week. And after 1 week, most of it is being thrown to the garbage. And you could look at it and says, wow, you stupid or something? Investing so much money in 1 week? And this reminds us this world. This world is only 1 week. It's limited. But there is a bigger lesson here. Because what do you think? Those firms are stupid? They know that in this week, if they do the right show, they will have benefit from this exhibition. They will have parnosa for the whole year and sometimes for a few years. They are going to have a lot of business if they will show the products in the best way they can. And even if it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, they know that they're going to make millions. That's exactly what's happening to us in this world. This world is limited. And we have to know not to waste our time on nonsense. Like when I looked at the show in the beginning, what, how much money they spent for 1 week. Yes, if you spend your money stupidly, it's only 1 week and then you throw it all away and you're left with nothing. But if your investment is in order to be successful in the year that comes, in order to gather your things, as we said with the Yontav of Shlosha Regalim, in order to gather your things to bring them to God. And this is what you're going to come out of this world. In other words, this world is like a show, like a big showroom, like an exhibition, a limited exhibition. But if we put our efforts in the right things, even if it's going to cost us a fortune, but we know we're doing it, this investment, in order to get out business for many, many years. Now, even to try to compare, it's impossible. Because in business, in this world, we're talking about, okay, we have business for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. But spiritually talking, when you do the right things here, the business that we're going to have, the parnasa that we're going to have is forever, because the next world is forever. In other words, you don't live once. You are in this world in order to live forever. So when we're talking about the taste of life, when we're talking about the laws of the world, we have our laws. We have our taste of life. Our taste of life is not Coca-Cola and not YOLO. Yes, we can drink Coke, we can eat YOLO, we can enjoy this world, but in the idea that we are only using it as tools in order to build the next world. This is a show, an exhibition, and we're building ourselves in this exhibition, in this limited time, in order to achieve our biggest achievement for the eternity, which is the next world. Those are the laws you put in front of who? Of Am Yisrael. And don't think for a minute that it's similar to the laws of God, maybe from the outside, but not from the inside. And there are certain laws that we have to learn, that we should know them. And if we pass the message to others, we have to make sure that it is well done, ready to eat. As Rashi says, lifnehem, put that in front of them in a way that it's a ready lunch, a ready dinner, a ready meal, that you just have to put your fork in and eat. That's what you should do in certain mitzvahs. All the other mitzvahs, of course, you have a problem, you go and ask the Rebbe. But the main thing is to understand, lifnehem, those are our laws. And as Abraham Avinu says, if we don't go in the way of the Torah, if there is no fear of God, it's no good. It's going to lead to nowhere. That's a better place. Unfortunately, it's going to lead you to a very bad place. And as we said, this world is limited. We are here in a vacation, you can call it holiday. And this holiday costs money. So spend the money wisely. This is an exhibition, a business exhibition, your business, your personal business. What are you going to take out of this world? And this is what you're spending your time here in this world. The world says time is money, but we say time is Torah. And the taste of life is not Coca-Cola, but the Torah. I wish you all the best, and I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and with all the problems we had in the beginning. All the best, and Shavua Tov, and
Shavua Tov.
let us all go in the right way, the Mishpatim of the Torah. All the best.